How's it going, everybody? Steve here. This time I'm doing a shoe review because it's the middle of winter and there are not a whole lot of new skate parks I can drive to in a reasonable amount of time and catch a good session in the middle of the day. There's just limited daylight, already getting dark here at about 4 o'clock, or starting to anyway. And it's usually wet and cold and stuff like that. So hopefully I can do some skate park tours again soon, but for now, you're stuck with a shoe review video. And in this case, I am reviewing the Janoski Nike SB OG Plus. And so this is an updated version of the Janoski. And this particular shoe is probably one of the best-selling skate shoes of all time. For those who have been skating for a while, you definitely know it because it had a long period of success, basically from the early 2000s or I guess later 2000s till the mid 2010s, and then it went on hiatus for a bit. But it's back in, I think it started last year, so 2023. And this is actually my first time skating a Janoski shoe. I hadn't skated the original ones, but now get to benefit from skating the OG Plus. So I'm going to take you through this particular shoe, tell you what I like about it, tell you what I don't like about it, and then you can decide for yourself if this is something that you want to try out and pick up a pair. All right, so to kind of kick things off with the Janoski OG Plus, first thing I want to say is that it's obviously a vulcanized shoe, and if you're not familiar with the vulcanized process, basically they have a slab of rubber that represents the bottom of the shoe, and then they take a long strip of rubber and basically melt it onto the shoe to hold it together, and the upper is already placed on it. So it's basically a way of kind of fusing the shoe together as opposed to like sewing it in or gluing it in. And that essentially results in a very grippy shoe that holds together really nicely as kind of a single piece. And you see that a lot with like Vans and stuff like that. But Nike typically errs more on the technical side of things. So unless you're skating a Blazer, the Janoski is really your only option from a vulcanized shoe perspective. Vulcanized shoes also tend to be a little bit thinner in the sole and midsole area. So you definitely will feel your board a lot more closely in this particular shoe, the trade-off being that you don't have as much padding for impact. And I've done shoes that have a lot of padding for impact in shoe reviews. Definitely, if you're interested in that, check out like the one I did on the Tiago 808. But yeah, this particular shoe is very minimalistic. That's exactly what Stefan Janoski wanted when he designed the shoe. And it's really meant for basically maximum performance with minimum material. And you see that throughout. So a couple of features to point out here. You've got a reinforced toe cap along the sidewalls here. That's a little bit extra material to wear down as you skate over time. And then the entire shoe, other than some small kind of like detail parts, is suede. So you get kind of that preferred material that skateboarders really love, a nice suede leather to have a good flick off of, grip really well, and hold up to a lot of abuse. I've actually been skating these shoes for about 3 weeks now, and I'm starting to wear it out on my more of my ollie flick foot, which is I'm regular footed, so left foot forward. And I'm starting to wear it out a little bit, but the suede holds up really nicely. So aside from the suede upper material, you do have this like striping around, which is more of like a plasticized kind of edge piece to it. This holds up okay to abuse. You can see like where I have kind of like a heel flip mark. It's fallen apart a little bit. Same with where I tend to rub my foot on ollies and things like that. So that one's probably like not the most durable part, but you do have to, if you're going to have individual pieces of leather for a shoe, which most shoes do, they're typically not all one piece. You've got to have edges to it. So nothing wrong with that, just kind of normal wear and tear type of stuff. So the laces are a pretty kind of standard, like almost like a dress shoe leather, and they hold together okay. Probably annoy some people because cotton laces tend to hold together a little bit more in terms of staying tied, but I really have not had any problems as long as I double tie these and keep them relatively tight when I'm lacing them up. A couple other things, a cork layered insole. So this particular insole is just your standard Nike Air insole. You got that like impact heel patch, but the cool thing about Janoski's is they've always put like a really thin piece of cork for their insole, just for kind of antifungal, keep the shoe smelling okay. So I think it's more geared towards like the aesthetic, but does have a functional purpose as well. And probably the thing that I like the most about this shoe is what it's lined with. So inside the shoe, there's like a almost like a grippier type of suede in there. So it's a slightly different texture than the outside of the shoe. And what that means is it holds your foot in really well. But the trade-off being that it is kind of a low profile shoe. So overall, it's got very basic. It got the basics of a skate shoe, but you're not going to see like a lot of padding in the sidewalls or anything in the tongue. It's just basically like several layers of leather or suede stitched together. So pretty simple shoe. All right, so now a couple things I want to point out from the top down is like it's got a pretty narrow toe box area. I have a very standard kind of foot pattern for a man. I'm not very wide, nor am I very narrow in terms of my foot, so I typically just wear normal width shoes. I find that this toe box is a little bit tighter on the fitting of it. So if you like a really wide shoe, you're not going to like these shoes. I can say that pretty safely. I also will point out that really the only extra padding is here around like your ankle. And this definitely helps with holding your foot in, but because this is not a very tall shoe, you definitely have just the bare bones as far as structure is concerned. So hasn't been a problem for me, but for some people who like to feel like their ankles really protected and snug, you might have a hard time with this particular shoe. Likewise, I mentioned this before, but the tongue doesn't have any padding in it, so it's just a single piece. I actually really prefer that. I don't like real poofy tongues, even though I started skating in the very early 2000s. When that was all the rage, I actually like this thinner piece to it because it just gives me what I need and nothing I don't. I will say the sidewalls here where you would ollie and stuff, there's not any padding in there as well. So that one would probably be the biggest thing for me that's a little bit of an adjustment. I definitely like to have my foot a little bit more protected just because I can be clumsy, and if my board slams into my foot because I miss a trick, I'm definitely going to bruise my foot for the most part if I'm skating in these. Like I said, vulcanized shoe, so not a lot of material to provide padding. Really, the majority of the padding is in the insole itself, and you can kind of see if I pull this out again, that's about, I would say that's maybe 7 or 8 millimeters of foam in there, and the heel has a little bit more, but not a lot. So if you want something with this kind of aesthetic but more padding, you might need to go with custom insoles. But I also think that if you're skating a lot, this shoe is not going to last forever, and you're going to find that you wear it out probably before you need to swap out the insoles. So something to keep in mind. Then kind of lastly, I will just say that you can see here where I've had some wear and tear from just skating because I'm a regular footed skater. The toe cap itself has held up pretty well. I have been wearing down the rubber material, so I think after maybe another 2 or 3 weeks of skating, this will have worn out, and I see like some dips in here as far as like seeing the rest of the shoe. And at that point, it's just kind of a matter of time before the shoe's done. But right now, they're still very functional and skate pretty well, and I'm happy with them. So that does it for the Janoski OG Plus Nike SB shoe. If you are into the shoe and love it, tell me about it in the comments. Tell me what you love. If you hate it, tell me that too. I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible, just acknowledging that some shoes have a very specific purpose. And in this particular case, it's basically to be the most minimalist skate shoe possible, while still having a good looking aesthetic and some nice features to at least keep your feet relatively protected. So I think this is a great shoe, particularly for like curb skating, mini ramps, just like low impact stuff. But if I'm skating something that's a little bit more intense, maybe want something beefier. However, again, happy with it and would buy it again if I wanted to go the route of a simpler shoe again. So anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.